Los Abogados is the Arizona Hispanic Bar Association. It is a group of, at this point, a lot of individuals who are normally have a common goal, which is to promote the Hispanic community through the practice of law. Los Abogados was founded back in 1976. So a group of individuals came together back then. It was intended to be a support system, a professional association where people who shared a common background and who were lawyers wanted to just socialize, network, and be, a professional support system for each other. That went on for about 12 years, and then Los Abogados, the actual association, was incorporated in 1988. We have lawyers, and then we also have students. And that has changed over the years. I think today we have the largest number of student members that we've ever had in the history of the organization, coming up on 50 years now. But so it'll be students not only in law school, but students in undergraduate programs and also in high school. It's about education, support, and empowerment of the Hispanic community through the practice of law. I looked at the Articles of Incorporation, and a lot of the same terms and the same words are used as far back as 1988, which is when we have the Articles of Incorporation. In practice, though, it changed a little bit in the sense that we are focused and have been focused over the last many years at this point on a pipeline, on building the pipeline. When it started, it was a lot more about supporting the attorneys who were already a part of the community, of the legal community. Today, it is much more about planting that seed and creating that pipeline. And how do you do that? You go to the high school students and you make them want to go to college. You make them want to go to law school. You show them that they could be attorneys. You show them that they could join the ranks of Hispanic leadership and then maybe apply to be a judge. And so that's how it's changed over the years. It's more focused on building that pipeline from students all the way to the bench and beyond. Look at the numbers. I looked at the census data from 2020, and in Arizona, the population is 31.6% Hispanic. If you look at the numbers of legal professionals, of attorneys, I looked at the data put out by the Arizona State Bar from 2022. Only 6.33% of attorneys are Hispanic. And so we're vastly underrepresented. And that's what we're trying to focus on, is to make sure that we have a legal profession that reflects the community in Arizona as a whole. A quick example, I do a lot of presentations in high schools and in college and things like that, where we interact with students. I went to a high school, and after the presentation, a student walked up to me and said, I was going to be a paralegal because I didn't think I could be a lawyer. But you're a Latina just like me, and so now I want to be a lawyer because I can see that I can be a lawyer too. This happened last year. It's 2024, 2025, but we still have people out there that may feel that way. That's why it's important. It is important that the students, the attorneys, that they see themselves represented out there. Yes, so pipeline is so important. We have 20 fellows each year, and we not only provide a prep course for the law school admissions test, but also a mentor. Why is that important? Most of our fellows have either never met a lawyer or don't have a lawyer in the family, don't have a friend lawyer who's going to review your resume, who's going to review your personal statement and tell you, you should not write it this way, or maybe there's a typo over here, or think about your story in this way. So what the mentor does is the mentor meets with the fellow and has coffee, lunch, gets to know the mentee. And by the time that the mentee sends you their resume or their personal statement, you know who they are. You know a little bit about their story, and you can guide them into writing a better personal statement that's going to help them get into law school and be competitive in their application process. The Los Abogados right now is every 2 years, one of the organizations in the collaborative bar will take over the leadership. And so right now it's Los Abogados' term. That's a 2-year term, and we're on our 2nd term right now. So we work with all the other sister bars on the collaborative bar, but also we make it a point to communicate with their leadership, to go to their events, to sponsor where we can their initiatives and their programs and whatever that they're putting out there as well. We think it's very important that we all work together because we're all working towards the same common goal. So on day 1 at ASU Law, I became involved with the Chicano Latino Law Student Association, which is COLSA. Los Abogados works directly with COLSA because that is how that's the people you're trying to mentor. That's the people you're trying to help, right? That's where you're building your pipeline too. And so as part of COLSA, my role in COLSA as part of the leadership was to be the liaison between COLSA and Los Abogados. So I attended board meetings, I attended events, and I'll tell you something that was, it just felt like home. When I went to these board meetings, when I went to these events, I was able to interact with all these attorneys who made you feel like they were your aunt or your uncle, and they were lawyers. And I didn't have any lawyers in my family growing up. And so all of a sudden I have a big family of individuals that I can turn to for advice. So it was, I would say, since I started law school here at ASU, and then I just stayed, I stuck around. It is the community. When you are a part of Los Abogados, and I think this is the same for a lot of all the other sister bars as well, you're part of a community that will uplift you and will support you. Whatever your area of practice, when you come to someone and you tell them about some issues that you're having, some professional, some decisions that you have to take about either your area of practice or taking a different job or dealing with a supervisor. It is a community. They're really there to help you, and that's why you want to be around individuals that will uplift you and that will help you in your professional development. To do it alone, we have a board, and we have 17 members of our board. We also have 2 students that sit on our board. One is a representative from ASU and one is a representative from U of A. And so we try to make sure that we have representatives of all of our members on our board. That way, when we're neglecting one group versus another, we have those voices that remind us and keep us honest. I think that the biggest challenge the organization has always faced is in times when it appears that everything is going well, members get complacent. People are not as active in the organization. That's a general issue. In more recent times, I joined the board in 2020. And so we started January 2020. We had a lot of plans for the year. And then of course, we had a pandemic, and we had to cancel both our annual events that we have, both the golf tournament that we have in the spring and our gala, which we have in the fall. 2020 was a challenging year, and of course priorities shifted for everybody. You're not as involved in the community because you are in survival mode. It was a very, very rough year for everybody, and of course for the organization as well. When you got to 2021, the issue was trying to bring everybody back into the organization. Trying to bring members back into board meetings in person was a very tough thing to do. So we had a lot of help from people that joined the board in 2021 and really got us started. And we were able to overcome that. Just like I think a lot of the other sister bars had some of the same issues. I think both of those are things that everybody felt at that point. I think that the biggest challenge that we're facing right now is the attack on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And unfortunately, again, going back to the numbers, organizations like Los Abogados are still necessary. Organizations that are trying to boost individuals and help them into the legal profession are still needed. And they're going to be needed, I think, for some time. Unfortunately, we're right now fighting for just the right to have these organizations and exist, right? And if we lose this challenge, well, we may wake up in a world in which having organizations or starting a new Los Abogados is not allowed, or maybe even illegal. There is, if I can't say enough how much being a member of Los Abogados, being a part of the events, of the initiatives that we have, it makes you feel right at home. It makes you feel like you're part of a community, like you're part of something. And who doesn't want to help students succeed and get into law school and be successful attorneys at some point? I think that that's always a motivation for a lot of our members. When we have our galas, when we tell them about the fellowship, when we tell them about the success stories of some of our fellows who got, who increased their scores or got into really, Ivy League schools, everybody wants to be a part of that success as well. Right now, more than ever, it's exhausting. There's so much happening, and my first reaction, and I think a lot of people's first reactions, is I'm just going to turn off the news, I'm going to turn on a show, and I am going to try and disconnect. Fair enough. I felt it too. But I think right now is the time when, if you want a Los Abogados to exist in the future, right now is when you show your support for the organization and for absolutely. And funding is a big deal, right? A lot of organizations are losing funding, and a lot of some of the firms that maybe have sponsored Los Abogados for a long time, we recently received a letter from a law firm that said, we will not be supporting you in the future. We're going to be complying with executive order from the administration. And so it matters how you participate participating in the organization and supporting the organization matters, but also in showing the firms that are saying we're not going to support you anymore, that there are still people out there that want them to be a part of the organization, of the community, and of the efforts that we're pushing. I think pay it forward, it means so many different things depending on who you are and how much time and how much capability of just giving you have, right? There are people that have children, and so they can't join the board, but you can sign up to mentor a student. Just have coffee with a student one time. Give them your advice, your perspective on what you think they should do in law school or after law school. You can join a committee, not necessarily be part of the board. You can be part of the board. If you are farther along in your career, you can apply to be a member of the bench. You can run for office. As long as you are supporting the community, it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It can be something as small as having one Zoom call with a student. The reason that we have such a big board is because we are a working board. We do everything. We put on the events, we put on gala, we put on golf, we raise funds. And so I think that in 10 years, I would like to see the organization have a more sustainable source of revenue, so that the board can focus a little bit more on some of the advocacy and the education, and not so much the fundraising, which takes a lot of our time. My mentees, I just got a text message from my mentee in the fellowship program a couple days ago. She was telling me how she got accepted to ASU and she got a merit scholarship. And it's those conversations, it's those text messages, that is what keeps me involved in Los Abogados. It is a family. I feel that it is like a family, being around everybody else. But as you become, as you go from being the student to being the new attorney to now being, the president of Los Abogados, now when I can turn around and talk to the students and tell them, look, I did it. English is my second language. I didn't speak English until I was 13 years old. I had a hard time convincing myself that I was going to be able to do this as well. To be able to share my story and just some of the things that I went through, and then have them become, having whatever I say to them or whatever I do touch their lives and make a positive impact, that is one of the most rewarding things in being part of the organization. I mean, we don't get paid. I work, at least 15 hours a week on just Los Abogados stuff on top of caseload and everything. So it really is the satisfaction of seeing. I know that you were saying, it's a long-term investment, but you see the rewards right away, right? Like, I had a mentee. I helped her with her process, her application process, and 3 months, 4 months later, she sends me a text and says, "Oh my gosh, I'm in, and I'm going to get some money on top of that." So every little step that they move forward, I feel it's their success. It's because of their hard work, not necessarily because of mine, but just being a part of that makes you feel so good. I think you learn from people in general, right? By the time you're a law student, you're about 25 years old, you have some experience under your belt with life. And so every time that you go sit down and have a conversation with a student, they're bringing their own perspectives, they're bringing their own opinions, they're bringing their own background. And all of that gives you a new perspective, right? I have a mentee who is Persian, right? And so we talk a lot about some of her culture, some of my culture, and we're coming together because we're talking about law school and what she wants to do and what steps she should take to get there. But along the way, you make these friendships and you learn a lot of things about people, about what's going on at the school. So you're always learning. The mentee mentor relationship is definitely fluid, where you're both learning from each other.